So this voodoo puppet controlled by I don't know what recently went to Connecticut to discuss, I guess, the Second Amendment. And he said what he said. He said at the end of the speech, which was dedicated to gun so-called violence and Sandy Hooker's victims, at the end he said, God save the Queen. So basically that thing is supposed to be of Irish origin, so you'd think that he knows a thing or two about Great Irish Famine in 1845 till 1849, which just emptied almost what is called Emerald Island, which is Ireland. This was one of the most terrible tragedies in Europe. This was also the reason why Irish moved to America. This Irish explained that the English wanted to kill them with famine, because at the end of the day, some of them think that this was the intention of Queen Victoria, which was called their Queen of Famine in 1846, 1848. Before 1801, Ireland was an independent kingdom. But after Cromwell Wars, the people of Ireland, the Catholics, were deprived of their civil rights. So because in the parliament at that time mostly were Protestant religion representatives, which were majorly either English or Scottish. So anyways, this was because Irish were very poor back then. They had their land stolen from them, and this land started to belong to these aristocrats from London and elsewhere of English. So that's how they lived. They had to rent the houses from the English on their own land, which they expropriated, and they had to pay rent and for the land. On the land that they rented, they were growing like rye and other crops, and they did it to sell it in order to pay for rent. And then they had this small piece of land where they grew potatoes. At that time, potatoes came from Americas, and they became very popular. But for some reason, one time, the potatoes they grew is to feed themselves, because potatoes have many calories, and this could help them be kept, not starve. So for some reason, the root system of potatoes everywhere in Ireland was infected with some bacteria, so they say, and they all the harvest died. And 3 consecutive years, I think, the worst was 1847, as long as, if I remember it correctly. So I just wanted to say that during that time they tried to help them the way they could. So at that time, people around the world started to gather charities, and Russian Tsar Alexander II sent his personal wealth, part of his personal wealth, to feed the hungry in Ireland. It's funny how Irish never remember that. And there is a story that Sultan of Ottoman Empire, this was Turkish, Abdul Mejid I, offered to send 10,000 pounds sterling, but he was refused because Queen Victoria of Great Britain herself donated only 1,000, so he was refused to send 10,000 pounds because she donated less. Anyways, President of USA personally donated $50. So that's how it was. When Irish traveled to the United States, a lot of them died on the way. So on their arrival, they had to go through inspection by the medics, and then they died too. And a lot of Canadians from France originally, I suppose, adopted Irish orphans. George Bingham, 3rd Duke Lucan, the English one, ordered to demolish 300 homes in Ireland and to put out 2,000 Irish who were renting them, because he didn't want the poor to breed, so that they could donate to Catholic popes. You see the hero? The English Parliament tried to do something, but apparently not much, since a lot left the countries and about 1 million people died from famine, while they kept exporting from the United Kingdom to United States and elsewhere their crops, their cattle, and everything else, because they had it in their abundance elsewhere in their own country, because they are one country, right? So they also made these studies, because British such a nice scientists and anthropologists, so they call themselves Anglo-Teutonic, and Irish they call Irish Iberian, and the brown people they called Negro. Anyways, so there is also this fun fact that British were actually the ones that invented concentration camps. This does not concern Ireland, but I'd like to say that they had this war in Africa called the Anglo-Boer War in 1889, where they put people in the camps where these people died, of course, of famine and diseases, mostly women and children, both brown and white. These were citizens of Africa, and yeah, that was quite cruel. And that's, I think, where feminism was born.